today called Using Shared Services to Improve and Secure Government. We have Andrew Schoenbach with us today. He is the Chief of the Budget Systems Branch at the Office of Management and Budget, a position he's held since 1987. He is responsible for OMB's MAP systems that support the formulation of the annual President's budget, including the automated publication of budget documents, analyses of budget data, and a broad scope of government-wide data collection, tracking, and decision support activities. This includes the Director's review scorekeeping, appropriations tracking, continuing resolutions, earmarks, performance tracking, and ad hoc policy support exercises. So that's a lot. Just join me in welcoming him. We really appreciate you being here, and I think you guys are in good hands for this session. Thank you. Yep. I'll totally let you know.
I've been looking forward to listening to you talk.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and shut this down.
Okay.
Thank you.
So if you're welcome to move up, there's standing room only, but you can come back to front. We'll have a much more intimate session. The title of this talk is a little bit of misnomer, using secure cloud services to improve government. Just the idea of improving government is a misnomer because government is great. We all know that. It's the best it can be. Using secure cloud services is something, of course, hopefully I'm preaching to the choir. Is there anybody that doesn't think that thinks cloud services are an anathema and we shouldn't be touching it? Okay, so I don't have to go through that convincing. I know there was a lot of discussion in Phil's session about we need to all get to start use cloud services, but here I think we all agree with preaching to the choir. The key part of my talk is going to be this part here, max.gov. And we'll be talking about how it evolved and what it does and what you can and should be doing today to use it. First, what is max.gov? And the first part of it, the part of it that for the first 20 years of my career at OMB, for the last 35 years or so, is the OMB's core budget applications. This is how the President's budget is put. And Phil, I always like to point out, Phil Winger, who is one of my deputies, is the person who is responsible for the publication of the President's budget. If you've ever seen it, he's the one who automated it. It's quite a huge achievement. It's a world-class type of activity. So we developed the President's budget, and that's going on right now. We published the 2,000-page plus budget and its appendix. And that's all done automated through electronic publishing. We author the budget. There's 30 chapters in the budget, another 30 chapters in the analytical perspective. We do budget execution and apportionments. For those of you who don't know what apportionment is, no money may be spent from the Treasury without appropriation by law, and OMB is the one that certifies that through an apportionment process. So there's a complete linkage between the Constitution, what Congress does through appropriations, and what OMB does through apportionments. And then, of course, the tracking of that is called budget execution. Tracking policy decision-making, congressional action, continuing resolutions, government-wide data collections. We do, I'm probably going to say hundreds of those constantly. OMB is sending out data collections. If you're in a federal agency, the federal people here, you know, there's what we call a BDR or a BPM or some data call from OMB. Pretty much, certainly weekly, but almost daily in many cases. We also do analytical reporting, business intelligence, and modeling, and we do information sharing. Now, the last two things are fairly new. These are new things. We've done them internally, but the fact that I'm standing here today is an indication of the second part of this, which is shared cloud services versus the budget formulation execution line of business. And that's what I'll be talking about mostly today. The budget formulation and execution line of business is an e-government presidential initiative about 5 years ago with the help of Silo Smashers. So we don't currently deal with them, but back then they helped put together a business plan for us. And when we looked at what it would take for budgeting people to do budgeting work, these are the Budget Officers Advisory Council. These are the most stingy people in the world, right? Everybody know your budget officer, right? These people are not like, oh, here's money, go do something with it. When they sat down together and figured out what do we need to be more efficient, more effective, we came up with these 10 things. Now, you can't see it here, but I've kind of grayed out this bottom section a little bit because you folks are not budgeting people, and so you're really not interested in the bottom 5. I'm not going to spend any time on that at all. If you are, come see me later, okay? But the top 5 things that budgeting people need are in fact the things that everybody needs. Anybody who's doing professional, analytical type of activity needs these things: analytical tools, collaboration, data collection, tracking, document production, and knowledge management, right? Is there anybody here that doesn't need that? That was a rhetorical question, so Cindy, the answer was yes. When we started to look at who we needed to deal with, our official scope for decades is this policy-making, management, and budget, obviously Office of Management and Budget. I'm going to emphasize policy-making, though, because we are the only site that White House people can go on to. White House people are subject to the president. Bob Hughes used to be there. I used to be at the Office of Administration, knows this. They're subject to the Presidential Records Act, and that's the act that gets you in trouble. That's the act that Dick Cheney broke, or some people say he broke, and caused court suits and congressional negotiations. That's the one that calls people up to the hill. The rest of us are subject to the Federal Records Act, but our systems need to be compatible with the Presidential Records Act as well, or we get hauled into congressional testimony, which is not something high on my bucket list. In addition, one of the things we realized very quickly was that open government notwithstanding, there is a need for access control. Open government does not mean I write an email, a draft email, and it shows up on the public website, right? WikiLeaks may think that's the case, but that's not what open government is about. Open government is about the process of interaction in a secure, safe place, going through various vetting, and then when a policy is made, right? We're talking about policy layer, that gets put out on the open network. It's not about us career staff talking among each other. And once you get that realization, you realize that you need the most flexible access controls that you can have. It needs to be robust, but it also needs to be highly agile. And when we realize that, we've implemented that, and the minute you do that, you now can do intra-agency, right? Because what's the difference between a secure, access-controlled Phil and I communicating, or one of us communicating, and an intra-agency? It's simply the matter of a definition. So we have intra-agency, we have hundreds of people using us, hundreds of collaborations going on, intra-agency that actually I don't know anything about because they're intra-agency. In addition, though, we were quickly informed that federal agencies, even budget offices, need to deal with state, local, international, and non-governmental partners. So we have actually extended our environment to deal with those people. So I'd like you to keep this in mind, that everything I'm going to show you from here on is capable of dealing securely, FISMA moderate level, when appropriate, with, this is a security conference, so I'm going to keep throwing in the references to security, to deal with any group that you need to deal with. Whether it just be 2 of us, FAA and OMB, or just the 2 as individuals, or whether it's 2 organizations, or it's 5 of us, or 10 of us, or now we need to bring in somebody from the state of Michigan, who's in Michigan today, to deal with it. All of that is possible in a secure way. I call it the Harry Potter's invisibility cloak, right? You can be standing in the middle of a field, talking with your friends, and nobody knows you're there. Here is, for this session, probably one of the key slides, the service-oriented architecture. How many people here remember the eGov initiative of the last administration to promote the service-oriented architecture? It was one of the scorecard items, okay? And most of the people in the budget office, their eyes would glaze over, so most people actually didn't have a clue. But we actually believe in it. The simple one-word explanation of the service-oriented architecture is Legos. Right? It's the mix and match way of doing systems. Don't write a system, make it a conglomeration, a combination of services. Right? That's what the service-oriented architecture is about. And that's what the talk this morning was about. So here I'm not going to spend a lot of time except to say we truly believe in it. And everything we offer here, everything we have built, the things on the right are things that Max does, that OMB does, that the line of business does. Everything we've done here, we have done using a service-oriented approach. And therefore, those services, whether or not you need collaboration or Maxville Community or online meetings or the A11 collection principle, whether or not you need that, it is highly likely that there are some of the services that we have developed that you could use in what you're doing. Does anybody have a question? That we have a small group so we can be more interactive? Yes? And who are you?
Noah Waters from USDA.
Okay, I
You're
know.
talking about the Max portal, right?
I'm talking now about Max in general.
No.
The Max portal is one part of what we do, but right now I'm talking about the entire architecture.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Max Portal's the first line under collaboration.
Yeah, most people consider the Max portal to be the Max Federal Community. What you're going to hear about today is far more of what we're doing, and more importantly, the services that underlie it. Another part, again, this is from our technology slides. We are into integrating open source, GOTS, government off the shelf, which is free, and low-cost COTS. We should probably change that to be high-value COTS, okay? And one thing we don't do, any vendors in the room, the one thing we don't do is we're really not into you charging us for success, where the more users we have, the more money we make. We're not into that kind of partnership. You can do those kind of partnerships, but that's not what we do. What we're into is if you have a great product, we're happy to stick it up on our servers. If we have 10,000 users, if we have 1 million users, that's our business. Okay? Your business is to sell that to as many people as you want. And I'll say this, excuse me, unofficially, which is, we like the government to buy once. We don't think the government, except in very specialized industries, the government should be supporting vendors. We think, this is me now personally, this is not an only policy, I have to make that emphasis. We believe that what we want to take advantage of is where the commercial world has gotten some tremendous success, and the government can be one utilizer of that success. Okay? So these are all the partners. We're completely agnostic. You'll see just 30, 40 companies. There's probably more. We'll run out of logos. Anything we can do here. And again, I've got these slides here if somebody wants to look at them in more detail later. One of our services, I would call this the no-brainer service at this point, is Max Authentication Service. This is a case study in success. And I don't say this because we're doing it. It's just the right way to do it. Everybody here know about Cyberscope? Cyberscope was an initiative where they wanted, FISMA compliance. Instead of collecting things in spreadsheets, they wanted to collect the data through a system. And what do you need what's the first thing you need when you do a system? You need identity and provisioning, right? You need authentication. And because Cyberscope was going to be interagency, they had a choice. They could build their own. This was actually Department of Justice doing this. Or they could take advantage of Max Authentication Services. One of the things that they looked and they said, well, gee, Max Authentication Services is great. You've got, at that time, I think we had 30,000 users. They're from all agencies, perfect for us, except we want to implement the PIV card. I usually at that point pulled up my PIV card. We want to implement HSPD 12 because we want to be at FISMA moderate, and you can't be at FISMA moderate without some kind of two-factor authentication or some other mitigating circumstance. So they came to us and they said, gee, what would it take for you to add PIV cards to Max Authentication? And we worked it out, and the price we came up with was far less than what they could have done to stand up their own authentication. Okay? Now, the key difference here, many of you in your agencies have set up authentication for your own agency, but we're talking now about every agency. And that's the one challenge we took on, and we've now been doing it for 3 years. And here's the interface on the right side here, if you can see it. Log in with your PIV card. If you have a PIV card and your desktop is PIV card enabled, you register with Max. Now, here's the interesting thing. We did it for Cyberscope, which had, about 200 users maybe total? We did it for Cyberscope, but we implemented it globally. This is where I get excited. This is why I'm here and not working on the budget today. Because we implemented it for one system of the thousands of systems in government, but we made it available to everybody using Max, all of our users. So now instead of 200 users, there's 50,000 users who could use it. We have about 5,000 users today, most of them not involved in Cyberscope at all, most of them who didn't pay a penny for this, who, all of DoD by the way, who come in, they register their PIV card with Max, and they never use a Max password again. And that's the beauty of this, right? What is the biggest impediment to success in a system? It's another password, another login. So one of the things we offer as a service is implement this. And you can see some of the statistics here. We have auto registration for government and military, and we can even do it for state and local. We have the technology, we just need a partner. We have over 100 plus agencies and 300 bureaus. We have 50,000 plus users. We have 31,000 user groups. What's a user group? I'll show you a little later, but a max group, you could have all of Department of Agriculture is one user group. All of APHIS is one user group. And so those user groups can be used to control access and security, as per my earlier conversation. And another thing, NASA came to us. NASA's a big user because the CFO there used to be my boss at OMB, and she was also the founding executive sponsor of the line of business. So she went over there and says, God, we gotta use the Max tools. These tools are great, we gotta do more. Oh, yes, Beth. She said, but I really don't want to do a login. Can we do an automated login? And they were not using PIV cards. So we've implemented a integrated logon. This is another thing we offer. If you're not using the PIV cards, you really don't need this if you're doing PIV cards, but if you are not using PIV cards, you can do this with your agency for a small amount of money. We talk to your Active Directory. It's completely secure. The architecture is, none of it's ours. It's all in your firewall. All we get is this person is already logged on and this is who they are. Just that one little handshake occurs. $50,000, all of that, that's what we charge. That's all it takes. We set that up. And now people hit this button and they log in with their login. And if they're already logged in, they go right into Max. Huge thing, and you're gonna see more agencies coming online because there's a lot of interest in that. All right, the Max Federal Community, 50,000 users. What the heck is it? How many people here have logged on, have seen the Max Federal Community in one shape or another? Okay, cool. What's wrong with the rest of you? First of all, one thing I'm going to say is if you haven't looked at it, we had this in the conversation, in the last 8 months, 6 months, you need to look at it again. This is not your older brother's Max, not your father's Max. We're actively moving this along. Max Federal Community is a story. It started out as a little community for the budget people. I think we had 3,600 people who log into Max for its budget role, and so we wanted a collaboration site. What happened then is one of these great stories, which again I can just stand here and marvel at, where we had the budget community, but then quickly the finance community who used it, who deal with budget people and grants people, said, gee, can we use this for our stuff? Sure. The marginal cost was almost nothing. Then the eGov community said, gee, we really want to do that. And so one by one, these additional communities started spreading up. Then we started to have non-OMB type of activities starting to say, can we do it? The marginal cost of this is so low that we said, sure, go ahead. Then we started to have Navy, nobody here from the military, right? Navy Bureau of Medicine was familiar with what we were doing and said, we need a knowledge management site, and our knowledge management site needs to deal with state, local, and non-governmental partners, right? They have hospitals around the world, so we need an integrated knowledge management site that is secure. Again, there's a big difference between public, right, and something which is secure collaboration. And so they set it up, and so they're contributing as a service. They're using the Max Knowledge Management as a service. This is quite a functionality. Don't have time right now to go through it all unless you have questions. But it's really been amazing. We have agency spaces, we have intra-agency, inter-agency, enclaves is what we call the external partner areas. Max groups, if you have good eyesight, this is an example of a Max group. This is Web 2.0. Now I'm going to have to find out what Web 3.0 is to see if I can start saying that. But this is Web 2.0. What does Web 2.0 mean? Web 2.0 means that you're going to use this for everything. Remember the intranet? How many people here still have an intranet? Right? The intranets were great, but they failed. Why did they fail? Because if I took this list of people and their phone numbers and posted it on my intranet, it would be out of date within the time it took me to go through the process of getting it posted. Right? In Web 2.0, the person who would post it is the person who is maintaining it, as opposed to some third party in an IT shop, right, a central knowledge shop. And so in addition, they would be using this themselves. The key to Web 2.0 is use it yourself, right? Eat your own dog food is what Microsoft used to say. I don't like that term because it's not dog food, it's good stuff. So eat your own cooking, okay? Hopefully it's good stuff. Now, What else is Web 2.0 about this? In addition to me getting the latest membership in my group, I also get the latest phone number, because you know who's maintaining that phone number? Not me. The individual user is. When they log in, when they change their profile, if they move offices, that's all controlled here. If I click on the profile for Julie Allen, she just moved over to a different office, I'm gonna see her new office because she maintains that, not me. I don't have to worry about that. Saves a lot of work. In addition, what else do I have for you? There's a little email button here. If I want to email this group, I simply click that email button, up pops the list of people in an Outlook, in an email compatible form. If I have my email link, it will go right into that. And now I can communicate with these people. Now, of course, we all have Outlook groups, right? Everybody uses Outlook groups. Has you ever tried to use an Outlook group with somebody who's not in your domain? You can't. Maybe you can, I haven't figured it out, but you can't, it's not easy. So if you're dealing with people who are outside your immediate Active Directory domain, you can actually communicate them with the email. All right, well that's nice, convenient, but what else? Here's the key to Web 2.0. If I'm using this group to control access to my content, and I'm using this group to maintain my email distribution list, then guess what? They will never be out of sync. I will never have a case where I send out the email, they click on the content and it says, sorry, access restricted. Never. That is the beauty. That is what Web 2.0 is about. It's about using one bit of effort, the effort to compile this list, for hundreds of things. And I could go on with the list, but let me continue on. I think you guys get the point. On the right side, again, if you have good eyesight, it gives you an example of our restrictions. We have both view and edit restrictions. And you can see, again, with good eyesight, that the restriction can be any combination of groups and individuals. So again, I can have a group which could be the TVA budget, IG's office, and the TVA budget office, and I'm going to add in somebody from the IG's office at Treasury because you're having an interaction. Not me, you could add it in. And it would be as simple as you clicking on this button and saying, gee, I need to add Andy Schoenback in there right now because I want him to see what we're doing. You add me in, you just add my user, I'm in there, then you kick me out. Totally delegated. The management of these groups, totally delegated. The only reason we've been able to grow with 13 staff to 50,000 users is everything is pushed out. It's all technology.
Got about 15 minutes.
That's all I have left. Well, this has been a lot of fun, folks. All right, so now I'm going to switch to right brain mode. Everybody know what I mean by right brain mode? Left hand, right brain, creative. I'm going to try and just get into your head in 5 minutes. Screenshots, okay? Max Federal Community. You can put diagrams in there. You can have a workflow in there. That workflow can have tracking part in it. You can have direct editing of Microsoft Office. You don't have to load documents in, you actually directly edit them, maintain them. Every version is kept. Okay, this is all right brain, so I'm going quick. Here's the workflow. Again, I'm tracking now, all of a sudden. We produce the president's budget this way. Right today, all 30 chapters and the other 30 chapters of the analytics are being tracked through by people pressing buttons that say, hey, I'm ready, send it to the next level. Max Calendar, we have developed, this is a whole other story I have to tell you, this is another success story of what it means to do shared services. Max Calendar is a highly functional calendar that is actually just a tiny little bit of code that we did for a customer that is built on another tool we have called Max Collect. And it's all done through service calls. This is actually being used for some very high things. What's beautiful about this is because it's built on Max Collect, you actually have custom data fields in your calendar. It's not just, oh, I'm going to put my date and time. FAA, if you were doing flight reservations, you could, when you say, I want an appointment here, that appointment could be what our flight, where is it located, what's the building, what's the access control. I'm moving quickly, remember. There's a register macro. This is the greatest thing. Didn't need it for this room, right? But if you had a room with 50 people, we do this all the time for tickets for the president's, for tickets for some event with the president, or tickets for some event with the director. We have 50 slots, first come, first serve. We send out the email, 200 people click it within the minute, right? The first 50 people get in, and the other 50 people get told, sorry. It's an amazing kit, but it takes 1 minute to set this up. 1 minute, literally. This is another thing which I like to say pays the price of admission. So most of you had registered to Max, right? So that means today you can throw away your Rolodex, because if I need to look up you, if I just have to remember some part of your name, like today, you walked out, there was this guy, his name was Andy, I don't know if it's Andy or Andrew, his name was Stan with an S, comes from OMB, thank you, comes from OMB, but I wonder who he was, how do I find him? Go into Max, click on either directory or later on it's called find people, we have two ways to call it. Type in A and D, because you don't know if it's Andy or Andrew, right? Type in S, type in OMB, because that's my email, or look me up here, and you will find me. Maybe 4 or 5 other people, you'll find me right there. This is amazing. And the beauty is, it doesn't matter why you registered for Max, whether it was for budgeting, or finance, or eGov, or for this conference, doesn't matter. The point is, once you're in the directory, you're there. Max Collect is a whole nother application. Most of you are involved in situations where you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and several months setting up a data collection. OMB sets these up, as I mentioned earlier, on the fly constantly, so we can't do that. We've done it, done lots of them, but we can't do it, it's not successful. I could do 5, and there'd be 95 that I didn't do. So we have set up a unique, in the world, this does not exist anywhere, for R&D, a generic SurveyMonkey-like tool for doing web-based data collection. This is CNA'd, it's secure to the moderate level if you hit a card. It also has integrated publishing and analytics. So take away and say, if you are thinking about developing any kind of data collection, this is not to the public, any kind of governmental data collection to partners, public, private, government partners, that doesn't matter, then instead of spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and waiting months and having a 75% chance of failure, right? That's our world. 75% of IT projects are either late, over budget, or don't meet requirements. Instead of doing that, you could have it within days available for a fraction of that cost, and it would have tremendous power. I don't have time to go into it all now, but I have the slides up here. Let me show you some examples though. This is not some minor little tool, okay, good, I'm just going to collect a little spreadsheet. It can be used for that, but we collect the OMB briefing book. 500 questions, 1,000 pages, goes over to the White House, high visibility, 100,000 pages, 160 people entering it. We collect aid to state and local governments, the president's budget chapter and the analytical perspectives. We collect terminations, reductions, and savings, another president's budget publication. We collected the FEA Enterprise Architecture segment, 20 data elements, 61,000 rows. Now this one I'm a little embarrassed about because it was our first one of our first ones 3 years ago, and some of the people on the user side said it was clunky, and they were right. But what they don't understand is that for the people in the middle, the people running the collection, this was incredible. They could not have done this collection of this scope without this tool. Now, we've improved the experience for the user. This is another story I would like to get into if I can. Federal Internet Domain Usage, I actually met the person who's running that last night. 2,000 pages, 220 enters, Green Sustainability Survey. These are things that were turned around in a couple of days, right? Actually, it could have been done in an hour, but in a couple of days, they turn around the collection, they didn't have to wait months, the collection's running, and then what happens? Automatically, it produces beautiful, camera-ready publications. This is the president's budget. And our publisher, who used to spend, how long did Jim spend compiling the aid to state and local? A week or two, right?
Yeah.
Our publisher, who used to spend a week or two, we used to have these GSA GPO printing people, the green eye shades going through the stuff. This is now done. He scans it to make sure there's nothing really crazy about it, format, spelling, and all that, and out to the printer it goes. It's an amazing tool. From the all around the country, reviewed, has a workflow, reviewed by OMB, out to the publisher. Here's another example, OPM share list of, nobody from OPM here, disabilities. This is a faceted search. Does everybody know what a faceted search is? Diamonds, facets, and every shopping site today has facets. The beauty of facets is it solves the problem of search. Search is great, but search is, when you go to Google, you find a million things, maybe you're lucky with the first 10 or 20, otherwise you're lost. Faceted searches tell you exactly how many they are for each facet, and they progress down. This, by the way, you should use this. This is a great tool, please, for hiring. What OPM has done is you can skip the hiring process. You can skip the process if you can hire somebody with a disability. So they've combed the country, they've vetted these people, and now you can go in, search by the category of what you're looking for. You can then look for the region that you're working in, and if you find something, their resume is right here. If I was online, you can find the person. If you like them, you hire them. You don't have to go through the whole recruitment process. It's an incredible thing. We can do this with any Max Select exercise. Max Analytics, I don't have time to spend much time on that, but beautiful charts. This is a cube, a data cube type of thing, this capability right out of Max Collect. Collect your data in Max Collect and then expose it on the web, either public or in the Max community, with these beautiful charts and graphs. This chart is a beautiful one in itself. This is actually agency performance. So I can't read what agency that is in this slide, this one here. But this agency is getting very mediocre performance.
Performance of what?
Using Max. So we used to get all these calls, oh, Max is slow. We show them this chart and say, well, wait a minute, the reason why Max is not slow, look at these people, they've got beautiful green all the way through, right? The red up here is like over 30 seconds. The stuff down here is 3 to 5 seconds, 5 to 15, I forget what the numbers are right now. But these people here, on average, about 40% of the time are getting slow time, over 10 seconds. What's wrong? What's different about your agency than all the other agencies? So it's not Max, it's something at your agency. As a result of this, we've helped several agencies. Somebody who was here from USDA, we actually helped USDA solve a networking problem where they were sending routing all of their traffic out to the West Coast and back. They were blaming us initially. Okay, more examples of charts, just any charts you want. This is a case study. This is Fusion Charts. Fusion Charts cost $6,000 for a site license for for about 110 different chart things. So this is why I say we love commercial. We paid $6,000. We have this beautiful chart package, and anybody here, all our 50,000 users, can use it. MaxShare Desktop is another tool, totally built with open source software. I'm sure many of you have used webinars and online meetings. MaxShare Desktop actually takes that to another level in that it allows real-time collaboration. It's not just one way, it's not passive viewing, it's actually a desktop. You're actually logged in, you have a virtual desktop. So let's say you have an Apple Mac, which has Office, but it's not a very good Office, it's not really compatible with the rest of Office today. You're stuck with a Mac. Maybe you love your Mac, but you're stuck working in a Microsoft world on your Mac. You can go into MaxShare Desktop, log into the desktop here, have a full Windows desktop at your disposal. Either, by the way, it could be XP, Office 2003, XP, Windows 7, Office 2007, or now we have Windows 7, Office 2010. So you can get a compatible desktop to what you need to do, access all of the Max tools through this, or any other web tool for that matter, and I can have all of you in that room at the same time. And I could give any one or number of you the pen, meaning keyboard and mouse, and just like the phone, we can't all talk at once, we can't all play mouse wars at once, but if, let's say, picture this now, we're working on an IT policy document. It's going to be 30 pages, and I'm going through it, and you can see it, so that's better than before, where all you can do is hear me. And you say, well, we're talking about, there's a clause on page 20 that you want to comment on, right? The IG wants to make a point about page 20. Instead of telling me, hey, on page 20, paragraph 5, the wording there, we need to change it, right? I say, fine, here's the pen, here's the mouse. You go to page 20, you show me, and you start typing the wording that you want. And if I've got track changes turned on, that track changes now will be there. This is a different way of collaborating. This also doesn't exist in the world. It's been driven by the need that we have, the government need we have, of developing these policy things in a joint way, remotely. And it's all open source. It's completely cloud ready and scalable. And it's fully integrated. So, knowledge management, I think I started off, one of the things we're proudest of is that the knowledge management community is discovering us. The key takeaway for Web 2.0 and knowledge management is this bullet up on top. How many of you have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe a million, on a knowledge management effort where you brought in the outside vendors, Silos, no, we won't mention names, you bring in an outside vendor, they tell you how to do outside, beautiful knowledge management, sorry, didn't mean to do that. They set it up for you, and within days or weeks or months, it's dead. Right? It's dead because you don't have the money and the energy to keep it up. If you change that to still bring them in to consult and tell you what to do, but you set it up using an integrated set of collaboration tools that are Web 2.0 compatible, now that site will be up to date because it's your real business. How many of us have email? We have folder structures with all our knowledge management in it. That's great, except it's useless from the organizational perspective. It's good for you, bad for the organization. Plus, how many people then are doing that same effort of organizing that data? If instead you use a wiki capability like the Max Community, and one person gardens it, that's the term of art, you garden it and organize it, now that's a resource that's institutional, it's organizational. Okay, robust Max infrastructure, we have multi-sites, we have high capacity, we're physical compliant, all that good stuff. High availability, we've implemented high availability data recovery technologies. Here's a roadmap. Now, I'm going to spend the last few minutes I have, although they should have given me a few extra minutes, you think, since we started late. So, hope you don't mind, I'm going to take a couple extra minutes.
This is floating around the room, the roadmap. Who's got it now?
Who's got this? Could you keep passing it around, please?
Oh, I just have the one. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was a sheet for everybody. That's
So,
okay.
no, it's that. So
Okay.
this for people with, don't have X-ray eyesight, don't have Superman eyesight. Partner with us. I'm going to start with this slide first. We are, for those of you that are, who've lived through the 60s, we're a cooperative. What does a cooperative mean? A cooperative means that people get together with common purpose. They do things for their own benefit and the benefit of the community. The benefit they get, they like to pay back. So they volunteer, they contribute things, whether it's money or time, or they contribute services and software. It doesn't matter what you contribute to the cooperative, right? The main thing is we're building something larger. That's what we are doing. We are building a government-wide capability for advanced collaboration. On this roadmap, the things that are in green are things that we have today that if you're not using them, if you're doing them yourself, we are wasting time and effort. There's nothing wrong with these tools. They are world-class tools. The ones that are in light green, and you probably can see the light green, we have them, but we don't think they're world-class, and we'd love to get help partner to make them world-class, okay? The ones that are in blue, we will have within the next 6 months or so, that we have them on our roadmap, we have funding, they're just coming out. The ones that are in light blue, they're in our roadmap for 2 years. But if we had funding or partner, we could get them done much quicker. And the ones that are in yellow, which kind of looks like the green in the slide, so look for that. They look really yellow on my slide. All right, those are things which we know, we have the architecture, we know we have the technology. What we don't have is a partner who has said, this is important to me, here's some money, let's do it. So I'm going to come back to this, so please look at the slide, these slides will be up later anyway. Partner with us. Instead of doing it the old way, setting up your own thing, instead of looking and saying, well, there's this one feature, Max is great, but I really don't like this, or it's clunky in this area. Fine, it's clunky in that area. Instead of then saying, go out and do something yourself, help us, partner with us to fix that one feature. Again, calendaring was a case study. We had a partner who used Max Collect to put together schedules from all the agencies on a daily basis. Every single day, this poor person would take the schedules from all the agencies and compile them into one integrated schedule. I will not mention who this was, but this was very high level. This person said, can you help me? And we said, yeah, Max Collect. By the way, this was in 08. We didn't have any resources. They didn't have any resources. We said, fine, no problem, just do it. So they set it up, and these departments and agencies continue to send that information to them, but they would enter it into Max Collect, and it would be automatically put together into a beautiful calendar for the people that need to look at it that I will not mention. Great thing, they would love this, but the people out in the field said, well, this is kind of clunky, you know, we're having, this is calendars, but we're having to enter date and time. You know, when you go to make your airline, you don't like to put in the date and time, you like to click it from a calendar. So, 2 years, this is, again, great system, people loved it, but the people out there were saying it's kind of clunky. They got some money, because the system, a parallel system was going down, was FEMA, was gonna go down, and they needed to rewrite it. So they said, we've got some money, can you make this better? They could have gone out and done something different, but they said, what would it take to make this better? We said, $200,000, we will give you a beautiful calendar interface. Because the rest of it already works, and the rest of it you already love. So for $250,000, we implemented a beautiful calendar, I showed it to you earlier, it looks just like Outlook, works beautifully, right? And now those people in the field are entering, copying stuff from their calendar, and they're thrilled as punch. The person in the middle is even more happy. We saved the government probably $2.5 to $750,000 $1 million. We delivered it within 2 months instead of 6 months to a year for the new system. And that calendar capability is now available to anybody who's using Macs. So any group, remember all those groups and individuals who needs to have a shared calendar can have one, and that calendar can be linked to your Outlook calendar. That's the kind of partnership we're looking for. And we don't care if you give us money, or if you have the expertise and you write some services that can plug into our services and vice versa. Doesn't matter to us, the whole purpose is, can we get this functionality out to the government without spending the hundreds of millions of dollars that the vendors that are selling these things on a point basis, on a per user basis, are going to charge. That's the challenge. So with that, let me just stop. Got a few minutes if anybody wants to chat, questions, happy to talk.
The survey, the collection thing, if we were going to be collecting on a regular basis, customer satisfaction, customer stuff, is this the kind of a tool that we could do that with? Is this appropriate for that?
Well, we have two tools. What you didn't say was whether it's anonymous or attributed. If it was attributed, if you have a customer and you want to have a direct interaction, then you want it to be attributed with ongoing stuff, then yes, this tool could be perfectly good for that. If you wanted to use one that was more of a regular survey tool, we actually, earlier on, we have Lime Survey, which is an open source survey tool that you can integrate into our environment, and you can use that, and then you can use what are called tokenized surveys, where you know whether the person responded, but the results are separated, or you can actually continue with the longitudinal as long as you tell them about
And
it.
that's available within that?
That's available within Max as well.
The web meetings and online collaboration, is that using Adobe Connect?
So actually, we integrated Adobe Connect at the beginning. And so we have it. Adobe Connect is very expensive. They charge $500 per license, $450 per
Yes.
user, and you have to have the survey, the server, and anybody from Adobe in the room, if they were, I would tell them anyway. They are one of the most unresponsive companies I have ever dealt with. Sorry. If you're
Yes,
a-
that's why I asked that question.
What's that?
That's why I asked that
Right.
question.
So we have, well, maybe Oracle's a tough. But, so we have, but this is not. So because of all the grief we were getting from Adobe, frankly, we went out and set up our own, we have this brilliant architect who's totally into the open source. We took this software called VMC Client, which is an open source sharing client. We've integrated into with our provisioning, we've added functionality. On our roadmap, we plan to add voice. It doesn't have VoIP, and it doesn't have VoIP on it. So we're adding those things, but this is now, there's no licensing cost. The only cost of that now is one, the small cost of, the bandwidth,
Right.
and the R&D, making the product better. So yes, that's exactly it. Good question.
Good. Then on the shared calendaring, if I heard you mention that correctly, it does push back down to your Outlook calendar.
So today, now, again, everything I'm going to say has a today, a tomorrow, with Sophia Loren and Marcelo Mostriani, yesterday,
Yes.
today, and tomorrow. So yesterday didn't exist for Max Calendar. Today, here's what it does today. You can, I forget the term it is, but you can register, there's a term, I forget it. You can right-click on it and say, I want this, this meeting is interesting to me, and it will be added, and you'll get an invitation to put it on your calendar. Tomorrow, meaning within the next couple of weeks, you will be able to say, I'm interested in this entire stream of this calendar. Whenever there's a new meeting here, send me an invite. And then that's Outlook. And then whenever that count, if somebody goes in and changes the room, you'll get another count. This is all using iCount. So there's no magic here. The magic is we're taking open source and standards, and we're leveraging it, and we're not making a profit. The whole magic here is we're not trying to make a profit. We're trying to provide services. So yes, iCal is completely supported, and that's the tomorrow part. It'll all be there.
And I don't want to dominate, but one quick question. Are these slides available for us to view after this session?
Yes,
Yeah, we're actually gonna be sending them out to everybody. We'll have them on the website.
right. In addition, if you log in, so again, any government person can get a Max ID,
Which I have.
which you have. These slides are actually, these slides are there if you just search on Max Presentations Overview.
Okay.
Actually, there's more slides there. This is actually a cut down deck. So you can go there and right on the Max Federal Community homepage, I'll just show you. For those federal people, when you go to the Max dashboard, it's right here. Right down here, under Learn More, is a link to this slide, a similar slide deck to this, and another more detailed slide deck. Other questions?
The roadmap,
The roadmap.
passing around,
The
it's in the
roadmap.
slides as well.
Roadmap is in the one that said, there's two slide decks. One slide deck is for general use, and the other one is for IT, for IT technical people. It's more dense, and that's the one with the roadmap. Not dense because it's not.
Like mine.
Right. Other questions?
You send out the survey, when you was mentioning, his question earlier, is it limited to registered Max portal, persons?
So again, two tools. One's a data collection tool, which is limited to Max users, but again, those could be not. You can set up, let's say you had the key word is partners. So bear with me just 1 minute, okay? There's no simple answer here, all right? If you say, I've got 1,000 partners, I don't care whether they're Max users or not, you would make them Max users for the purpose of that, okay? But if you say had 50,000 people and you didn't want to make, this was just a one-time survey, you would use the live survey tool, and that does not require provisioning. It can require provisioning, but it doesn't require it. And they would each get a unique link. By the way, this is a tokenized survey. It doesn't have to be, you could do a survey like in general. Tokenized survey where they get a unique link, they press it, they can come in and edit it again. It's, however you set it up. And that one can be anonymous or not, and that one does not require Max ID.
Yeah, so it's really up to the survey designer as to how much authentication do you want if the survey responds? Do you want to just go out? Do you want it to go out with a unique link so you can't pass it on to your friends? Or do you want to go out to specific people that you know for sure they are who they are? We can support it anyway.
Great. Well, thank you all. I'm available if people want to chat afterwards.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great product.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.